kick it? Yes, you can. Can I kick it? Yes, you can. Well,
All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of Kick and Make Up MMA. I'm your host, the American Hybrid Nick Cunningham. With me, as always, Jeremy JD Dorsey. What's going on, man? Right.
I'm good. How you doing?
Yes. If you're on acid today, it's awesome for this show because we're gonna do this all day to you. Just kidding. The Kick and Make Up show does not condone acid. So, with that being said, yeah, we're gonna just go crazy. It's one of those days, man. What? It's one of those days because it was one of those weekends, man. As a few people thought, including myself, we saw a new champion at UFC 162. Big news this weekend: Chris Weidman defeated Anderson Silva by knocking him out in the second round.
Yes.
And we're gonna get into that. I mean, the show today is basically going to be covering that fight of UFC 162. We have some results from the main card, but you know, the high kick, low kick, that's some bull kick. I feel all goes around Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman from UFC 162.
Definitely. By far the biggest news going on in MMA, and I love, MMA is still sort of a niche sport, so when you can see it get sort of national, worldwide coverage is awesome. And just to see Twitter explode when Silva's jaw exploded,
right?
It was pretty awesome to see that, and seeing it on ESPN and everybody covering it. Like it's really cool when you see a sport that you love and follow blow up on sort of the mainstream, and that's exactly what this fight did. It was very controversial to say the least, but
right.
We'll get into that later.
And before we get into that, we're going to get some of the particulars out of the way, and then we will go, dive right into it. You are watching the Kick and Make Up show. If you want to get a hold of us, you can we have a few different ways to do that. Actually, if you've missed any of the other shows, go visit our website, www.kickandmakeup.com. We have all the old shows on there, all the articles that I'm writing and have written for Ola America, where we are at right now. We're at the Ola America studios. So thank you, everybody here, for letting us shoot the show here. You can also get a hold of us at our Gmail account, kickandmakeup@gmail.com. For the social media heads, if you want to hit us up on Twitter, the show is at Kick and Make Up, and my personal one is at Hybrid MMA. Definitely get on those and follow us there. Also on the Facebook page, which is just search Kick and Make Up. We are pretty much, I think, going to the UFC 164 with the Henderson and Grant. So I know that before we had. Most of the time we're down on the floor, cage side, and blasting all the info and anything and everything going on. So you definitely want to be a part of those groups.
Yeah, there's going to be so much content coming from Kick and Make Up that weekend. I'm sure we're going to be able to score some interviews with some people.
Yep.
Try to get you a lot of the backstage stuff that we weren't able to get when we went to the last UFC. Was it
right?
That was Fox
4 maybe, something like that.
Yeah, but we weren't able to get a whole bunch of the sort of background, stuff where, in the locker room, and they were able to, people were doing interviews and stuff back there, but we didn't have stuff to do it. But now we got all the equipment in the world. We're ready to bring this on a very large scale. So you'll be able to see all the sort of behind stage footage, the things that you wish you would be able to get from a lot of the mainstream, media sites, but they don't do that sort of thing. So we're going to try to do it. I'm going to be sneaking around with a camera, looking a little creepy, and getting everything that you guys, I'm sure, are going to want to know about.
Definitely, man. So we are going to get right into the show, and actually we've even got a few people that responded to the Facebook page on the kickback, which I know you're going to take care of that later.
Yep.
And I'm excited. I'm excited about some of the comments that were made because I definitely have rebuttals. So we are going to get going with our high kick of the week like we always do. We do the high kick, the low kick, and that's some bull kick. And this week's high kick goes to, obviously, Chris Weidman for a second-round knockout of Anderson Silva, taking away the title from him, who's held it for 7, 8 years, 16 wins in a row. His record you could just list off. most titles defended, most knockouts in title fights. I don't know, man. Most everything of anything. This is a huge win for Chris Weidman and really shakes up the division. it shakes up some of the plans that the UFC had for super fights with Anderson Silva and even with George St. Pierre, and this puts a stop to all that. And I think it's something that a few people talked about maybe happening, and I can even say too, I was 99.9% positive that this was going to happen. But then once watching the fight, I was like, he's just going to do this dance stuff again. He's going to catch him. Because, you and I talked, Anderson Silva would go dancing and doing his weird stuff again, but then he'd just pop off like 2-3 jabs or nasty kicks and then go back to dancing. So you're like, oh, even there was that high kick that he threw, that would have landed. That was another sleeper like Vitor Belfort. So, just watching it, what were some of your thoughts?
I don't want to get into the Silva stuff because we're going to cover that later, but just strictly speaking on Weidman, I was impressed that he was able to keep his composure. That was the one thing that I was wondering, once Silva started to do his act, if Weidman was going to be able to, keep his composure and not let that sort of mess him up. Most guys, regardless of whether this guy is sort of playing around or, sort of joking around in the ring, it's different when you see something like that. If you're used to someone coming up to you and they're in their stance and that's all that you've seen pretty much your entire career. Every time you get into the ring, it's the same thing. Yeah, the styles might be different, but you're not going to see someone completely taking it in a different direction, and that's exactly what Silva did. And he does do. And I guess maybe we should give him credit for that strategy and how it's been successful, for several years. But, just looking at Weidman and what he did, he was able to overcome that. And he knew that if he just continued to do what his game plan was and stick to that he would, be able to get some shots in. And that's exactly what he was able to do.
And I think even with watching Weidman, his confidence level was through the roof going into the fight. Even to the point where in the first round, he had Anderson on the ground and rolled into a knee bar, which, anybody that knows the sport, knee bars are not the easiest thing to pull off, and especially versus the best in the sport, period. That just shows that, he felt like he could win. He knew that, and he was even going to try to win, that route. When he tried for that, he's one of the better ground and pound guys too. That's what he's known for. We all knew he was going to take Silva down early, which he did, and land some elbows and just lay heavy on him. But as soon as he rolled into that, I just was like, man, this guy is on another level of thinking he can beat Anderson Silva, and then from there tried to go to a heel hook. It was just, and then the fight was back on its feet after that, because if you don't get those, you're basically slowly sliding your way out of the person, and then they just pull their foot out and they're free. But I knew at that point that he was gonna put up a fight for Anderson Silva, and it wasn't gonna be a boring fight. He wasn't just gonna lay on him and just grind him out like we've seen with some people too, which that's another strategy that goes in there and works too. But at that point, I just knew that it was something good was gonna happen, and like I said, we should just get right to the low kick, man, because we're teetering on, we're not wanting to talk about it. So we can hit this later, and I'm sure Chris Weidman is gonna be in the news for weeks to come now. Where he goes now does he fight Mark Munoz now? Does he fight Vitor Belfort now?
Right.
This is nice. What it does for the middleweight division, it just opens it up nicely and switches it up a little bit. Anderson Silva's fought everybody and anybody, and so now it sticks Weidman in there and just kind of shakes it up a little bit. And I'm just really curious. We're gonna hit Anderson too, but who does Anderson fight next? Now this is the first time we've seen him fight in a non-title fight. It's like, I don't know, man.
Right, and then you start thinking about when you had all these sort of super fights lined up for him, or at least one or two, thinking of Jones and the GSP potential fight. But when he's lost now, do you think you would lose something by just throwing him into that mix now, or does he have to go back and have a rematch with Weidman?
You would think so.
Yeah, I would sort of think that's the logical route. But say he goes in with Weidman, and you know, from what I was reading, they said that, you know, possibly December 28th for their year-end show that they would you know, set up that rematch. But you know, say he goes in there with Weidman and loses again, you've lost pretty much he's lost everything at that point. Yep. Because nobody's going to really want to see him fight Jones or GSP at that point, because they're going to consider them to be, you know, on a different tier than where Silva is at that point in time. So I guess the UFC is going to have to roll the dice a little bit and see if they can hopefully get Silva to pull that out if they want to continue that, you know, that sort of super fight thing that they had. Exactly. Or that you would think that they had planned.
Right. And I mean, that's just, it rolls right into our low kick section of the week. Right. Woo. This is magician stuff at the end. I just watched that Burt Wonderstone movie with Steve Carell and Jim Carrey, and it was okay, but that was my. So the low kick this week goes to Anderson Silva for playing around too much in the cage at UFC 162, and Joe Rogan said it best: you don't play around in the cage. I don't care who you are. You don't play around in the cage, which is kind of common sense to me. You're fighting another man in the cage. You've got your mouth guard and your cup, and that's it. Well, you don't play around. Well, I'm not playing around in there. I mean, you don't drop your hands. You don't dance around. Anderson Silva putting his hands on his hips, the fake stanky leg, the fake wobble, him just doing all, you know, when he baits you, come on, and he's hitting his leg. It's like, just beat the piss out of him. Just fight. Like, you're Anderson Silva. Like, we know who you are. We know what you can do. Just go do it. Go. I don't like that part of it. And it finally it caught up to him.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, like you said, he's done that forever. You know, in some matches it's way worse than others. And I can't exactly figure out why it may be worse in some than other ones. But I mean, he's been, you know, undefeated for the longest with that sort of style, so you can kind of understand why he would do it. But there comes a certain point where some of that joking around, well, I won't say joking, some of that you know, maybe sort of gamesmanship or technique is okay to some degree. But there comes I think about midway through that first round, he crossed the line where it was too much. Like, and everybody from the outside, you can hear, you know, the commentators saying, like, you know, he might want to get a little bit more serious, and you know, you can just tell it was a little bit too much. And when you have something like that going on, where even, you know, everybody on the outside sort of sees that this is going, you know, in a direction they don't really want to see it go, you kind of get nervous. And at least for me, I was thinking, you know, well, if he's going to go this route, he's going to have to turn that off in a second and then, you know, really get focused and just, you know, just end this instead of, you know, continuing to play around. And when you do that, you, of course, run the risk of exactly what happened. I mean, he got caught flat-footed, you know, backpedaling, head turned, and was just wide open for a shot, got caught with it, and, you know, it was lights out, eyes rolling in the back of your head bouncing off the mat. It was bad. It was bad.
I just see too, I mean, it was bothering me watching that too, I was saying, if he does this for 5 rounds and Chris Weidman doesn't do anything, or it just goes to 5 rounds, he will win because he's the champion, and all that stupid saying of you got to beat the champion to be the champion, which I'm happy a couple times that we didn't see that happen with a few fights. I believe it was like the Ben Henderson versus Frank Yeager. He was not the champion. It went decision. He got the nod and the belt. But most of the times, you know, Anderson would have played for 5 rounds and he would have got the judge's decision because he would have snuck in a few hard shots here and there, just enough to, ooh, that's a hard shot. And so I was, like you said, I was annoyed early on watching it. And I just think that I know nobody wants to say it, so whatever, I will. He's one of those guys that is, you know, he should be on his way out too. Yep. He's done everything that you could possibly do in the sport. He's gotten the biggest sponsors of Burger King and Nike and everybody. I mean, he's done wonders for the sport. It's 36 or 7. Even more confusing too, I mean, just to show like where his head was at. And we're going to talk about this in the BullKick too, but I will hint to what the BullKick's going on. It's weird. Even Anderson Silva doesn't know what's going on because he said that I'm not going to fight for the title anymore. but I'm still gonna fulfill my 10-fight contract. And Joe Rogan was like, "What? So you're retiring, or you're going down to another weight class, or it sounds like you've got some plans?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna take care of my family, and that's gonna be my job now. But I'm still gonna fight 10 more fights, and 10 more fights. I just think even that, like,
that's a lot.
I think he's got 3 to 5. That most, like 10 fights. That's like another. I mean, that's another 4 years. Like he's not. I don't think he's fighting till into his 40s.
Right.
I don't know.
And at this point, he really has no need to. I mean, with his legacy and everything that he would leave behind if he left the sport right now, he would still be considered probably the greatest fighter of all time.
Right.
And just seeing that sort of 10-fight thing, and then even thinking about the stuff that he said in his the pre-fight press conference and stuff, and saying how if he lost he didn't want a rematch, and it was kind of odd, and to see him come out there and then deliver a performance like that, you just kind of shake your head. And then also one of the things I was thinking too is maybe at this point, this is the Anderson Silva that we're gonna get. Like maybe it wasn't just that he was joking around. It was just that his skills have diminished enough that that gap that was between the fighters that was this big is now only this big.
Yeah.
And that leaves you open for that one shot. Who could be anybody can make that one shot,
right.
And it just so happened to be Weidman that night. So
right.
I guess time will tell what we'll see from here on out. But maybe his skills have diminished. Maybe Father Time is finally catching up with him.
I mean, we'll close before we go to that some BullKick with this comment. It just shows to me like you're bored. I know that any fighter watching right now, when you spar and you start to play, or you're in the cage and you start to play, you're bored. That's what you're doing. You're not really into the fight, and you're not 100% as hungry as maybe I guarantee your first, second, or third, fourth fight, you weren't doing that. You're going towards it. You're trying to end it. When you start dancing around and doing the Ali shuffle and all that stuff, you're getting bored, and this showed it right here. And he lost the belt for it, and we'll see what the rematch what happens, but. Anderson Silva gets the low. I never thought I'd be saying this word. Anderson Silva gets the low kick for playing too much in the cage, and for ultimately him costing him the middleweight belt. So with that, man, I've been waiting for this BullKick session. With that, here's the.
You know what? I'm gonna work on some transitions. I think this week and see if I can meld them into the video and post and see.
I don't like that either.
Or at least a sound effect or something. Right there you
like
go.
That.
A kick.
Yeah.
Dude, kick and make.
This is the kick and make up show. So make it not like a whip, because that would sound like a bondage show or something. That's weird. I don't want to do that. So anyway, I told you weird. I'm talking about acid and bondage today, and the kick and make up show. All right.
That's what we do.
So that's some BullKick. Goes to all of you people, and you know who you are, saying that this fight was fixed and there might be some controversy behind the loss, and the UFC's puppeteering Anderson to lose, and Anderson's in on it, and blah 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 blah.
Can I say something real quick too? Just speaking on that. And this being BullKick, the last few BullKicks, we kind of disagreed, and it's been a little bit of separation and sort of counter arguing. But this one, we are in 100% chorus.
Beautiful,
this
man.
Is 100% agreement.
Talk shit like crazy now. Then
too much, too much. Too many people just complaining and saying it was fixed. And I'm gonna wait for my Facebook to show up a little bit.
Well, while you wait, I can just say too that you mentioned before that in the pre-fight interviews he was saying he doesn't want a rematch. That's just answering a question. I mean, these guys have so many questions that they get asked a million times. I'm sure Anderson Silva gets the same question probably 1 million times. But do you want a rematch? No, yes, no. I mean, that doesn't mean that you're going in wanting to lose. That's just saying, like, if at this point, if I lose, I don't want a rematch with him. Maybe he wants to fight somebody else. But he's always had his fights so picked out for him that him saying that if I end up losing, then maybe I want to say in who I fight or something. I don't know. It doesn't mean like he's going in like, I'm gonna lose.
Right.
I think people are reading way too much into this.
Right. And speaking of which, we got a little kickback on the Kick and Makeup page from Ricky
Venegas. Ricky Venegas, what's up, man?
I'm sorry for butchering your name. I'm really sorry. But he said, looks like a setup to me, the way Spider was talking and the way he was nonchalant about it. And then he put really with a question mark at the end. So, you know, he's sort of speaking to the fact that, you know, before the fight, some of the things he was saying, and you just spoke on that. But we also had Alvaro Macias, who was saying that that's what he got for being cocky. And also that you have to give Chris credit because he stayed focused, stuck to his game plan. He showed good composure. Silva didn't get into his head. Now everyone knows that they have a puncher's chance against Silva and just got to wait for him to slip up or get cocky. So sort of like what we talked about earlier, that, you know, maybe his skills have diminished to the point where, you know, everybody has a chance now. But definitely want to give a big shout out to Ricky and Alvaro for dropping some kickback, and if anybody else has kickback, we will make sure to mention it on the show. So just drop it on there.
Yeah, definitely, man. I will say Ricky too. He's a huge into boxing trainer himself. Has boxed before, from the Venegas family that we know in the Quad Cities. Gilbert, little brother of Gilbert Venegas, professional boxer. Huge. So when he talks, I know he knows what he's talking about, and me and him went back and forth a little bit too on Facebook, and with the term lucky punch, yes. Said that Chris Weidman got a lucky punch in, and I've always said there is no such thing as a lucky punch. You throw a punch with the intent of it landing, so when it lands, that was planned. Like, it wasn't, you didn't get lucky and land it. Once
Right.
you throw it, it's I know what he's talking about, and I wish that we could think of a different term of the lucky shot, because I don't know. You train to fight, you punch, that's a trained precision shot.
Right, and I think more so than lucky, it's sort of a right place, right time sort of thing with this shot. And, you know, lucky, I would kind of equate it to, you know, a lot of times you see people who are inexperienced in fighting, or, you know, if you back in high school or grade school, you see people fighting and they're just doing like that and throwing their arms, and then they might connect with somebody and knock them out. You know, that's lucky. That's a lucky punch to me. But, you know, somebody who has been training for years and years and years, I definitely agree with you that there's no such thing as a lucky punch for them. Like, if it's just an amateur on the street, or, you know, somebody you see just flailing away, or even in a professional fight, if you just for some reason saw someone flailing away, you know, I guess that could be considered a lucky punch. But in this circumstance, no, not at all.
Yeah, and I will say too that I know what you mean too, and everybody watching, Ricky. The fourth shot, I mean, Weidman threw 4 punches. The first, he tagged him with the hook, and then he followed through and kind of grazed his jaw on the second or third one. And then the fourth one was that last, as he was going back, he threw another punch. It wasn't even hard, but it just was one of those on the button, turn the head, snap the head. I mean, it was not a hard shot. It just landed right on the chin.
And don't think that he hasn't been trained to try to hit someone in this portion of their face.
That's right.
Like that's, you know, that wasn't a mistake. That wasn't by accident. There, you know, if he wanted to hit him in the nose, he could have hit him in the nose, but he knows that it's more, you know, you're more likely to get a knockout on somebody if you catch them right here.
Yep.
So
and that's why I said everybody that has fought and watched fighting and appreciate it, you know, behind the ear, on the chin, you know the shots of what they do. Different places do, like you said, the nose one, that's not going to knock you out, but it's going to stun you and make your eyes water and all that. So, you know, this was planned. So, but yeah, I mean, back to the bull kick. Like, all the it doesn't have to be controversy and drama with every single thing. Like, oh man, Anderson Silva lost. Woo! Like, he lost. It was gonna happen one of these days. All the Silva heads out there, like, dude, your dude lost. And I'm a huge Anderson Silva fan too. Like, I like him. I like him a lot. I appreciate what he does. I've enjoyed watching him fight. But I'm not gonna cry controversy because he lost. And then, like I said, and I am kind of confident that if they have a rematch, he might just knock the piss out of Weidman, just to show everybody, like, oh, see, look at all you guys that were talking shit when I lost. I just beat Chris Weidman in a minute and a half in the first round. He's laying on the ground. Like, that's a scenario that's very possible too. Right. So I don't know. There's always. And as a writer too, man, yeah, controversy's fun and stuff like that, but you don't need it all the time for every
right
thing.
And then on top of that, you know, we're thinking sort of on the micro level of a controversy to that extent, but you know, on a macro level, a bigger level, like the amount of time, effort, and you know, stupidity it would take for that to come down from Dana White to say that you're going to throw this fight. I mean, he would totally undo all the goodwill that he has gained, everything that he's done to make the sport of fighting legitimate.
Right.
And I don't think that he's willing to take a risk like that. And then there's no need for him to take a risk like
Right.
that. I can see if, you know, maybe the company was failing and it was on his last legs and you had to do something. Yeah, maybe that would enter his mind. But at this point in time, no. There's no reason for, you know, them to come together or, you know, throw a fight, even if it was just Anderson working, you know, on his own to just, you know, say, oh, I'm going to throw this fight. It makes no sense. If he has the contract that he says he has, then
Right.
he has 10 more fights left. What sense does it make to start throwing a fight right now at the very beginning of this 10-fight contract? Like,
Right.
that makes
there's
no logical sense in this. So
I will say that
BullKick, people.
BullKick,
You're on some BullKick.
Right. I will say I'm with you guys when we talk about mismatch fights and this guy's fighting this guy and you're just like, what? Like, how did he get that? He's not the number one contender. That kind of stuff I can see, but not just throwing fights yet. We're not. I don't think that we're doing that yet in the sport. So, yeah, all you Anderson heads, like, just calm down. Go to Burger King. Get a sandwich, still support him. I'm sure he's still sponsored by Burger King. Everything's fine. You guys are good. And some good fights coming up this summer. I feel like we're coddling the Silva fans. Like, it's gonna be okay.
It'll
Boop,
be
boop,
all
boop,
right.
boop.
It'll
Like,
be all right.
it's fine. So yeah, that's the BullKick of the week. Bam. I like it.
Yes, I do too.
So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna give a little preview of next week. We've got the Caged Aggression 10 card coming up at the River Center. We had Mike Goodwin on last week, so we're gonna we'll preview a couple fights.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know what I did right there. Whoop, 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 whoop. I don't know what that was. Whoop, 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 whoop. All right, yeah. So yeah.
If you haven't got a chance to check out the great interview that we had with him, be sure to do that. www.kickandmakeup.com is sitting there right now. Got tons of views on that. So thank you to everybody who's watched it already. But if you're sleeping on it, don't sleep. Wake up. Go check it out right now.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to be covering that to the gills. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to do a little pre-fight stuff, little post-fight stuff. You know, even before that, going to interview some of the fighters. So we're talking to those guys now and trying to get everything squared away so that we can bring you some interviews with those guys too. And I mean, man, if there's anything that you want to know about, you know, Caged Aggression 10 and everything that's going on, the fighters involved, just hang with us. And you'll be able to get all of it. I'm going to be sending out questions to all the fighters coming up this weekend, so that we'll have things to talk about during our commentary of it. But yeah, if you got questions that you'd like me to ask some of the fighters, let me know, and we'll be able to work it in. We have nothing but time when we're you know, behind the mic, so we're always looking for things to talk about. So you know, that's another task for you guys out there in viewer land to hit us up and give us some kickback.
So that's on the 20th. On this Saturday is the Invicta FC card, and this is the first all-woman card on a pay-per-view. And it is cheap, man, to watch, and it's way worth it. I mean, I've streamed a couple of the Invictas, the last few, as best as I could, and man, from beginning to end, these fights are awesome. So I know, I believe I looked down, it was either $9.99 or $14.99.
Yep.
Something so low for what you're getting, and this is just awesome because Invicta's been trying to work their way and grind it up the ranks, and I feel like this is awesome for them to be on pay-per-view finally. Bam! Invicta, to be on pay-per-view finally. I'll be ordering it, trying to check it out. Yeah, so that's Saturday, July 13th from Kansas City. Invicta FC, Chris Cyborg versus Marloes Conan is the main event. So you guys know,
rematch.
I mean, right, man. Both Cyborg, I mean, her last name's Cyborg, so I mean, she just goes out and just runs through people. But Marloes Conan is an ex-champion in Strikeforce. she's not gonna roll over it for Cyborg at all. So this is a great main event, and just a ton. I mean, there's a ton of fights on this card. Like I said, we could have a whole show for Invicta.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure one of these days we might. But yeah, if you're not doing anything Saturday night and just looking for something to do, have some friends over, order Invicta on pay-per-view, and you will not be disappointed. So yeah, that about does it, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that main event. That's gonna be big time. You know, especially coming off their last fight, which was maybe 3 years ago or so now.
Yeah.
But you know, Cyborg's been running through everyone, and you know, this fight or their last fight was pretty close up until the third round, and then you know the knockout came. So it was, you know, it was pretty close up to that point. So you're just gonna hope that, you know, maybe some things have changed, and you know it's gonna be a little bit different this go around. So yeah, there's no reason, if you're a fight fan, fighting is fighting, whether it's guys or whether it's girls. So just go ahead and order that, support them, because they're doing something that's you know, revolutionary, and giving, you know, women their own promotion to do well in a sport where they're you know, sort of underrepresented at this point.
Exactly,
in time.
man. So yeah, take it from us, man. You guys better order that Saturday night.
Or else you're on some BullKick.
Yep, you will all get the BullKick. If the numbers aren't big, everybody's getting the BullKick again. You guys got it this week, the naysayers and the controversy heads. So you don't want it 2 weeks in a row. You don't. No. That from us. That about does it for the Kick and Make Up show. kickandmakeup.com is the website. kickandmakeup@gmail is where you can email us. At Kick and Make Up, at Hybrid MMA, or Twitter accounts. Go to Facebook, Kick and Make Up. Kick and Make Up, Kick and Make Up. Let's just say it like 10 more times. Kick and Make Up.
We're Googleable.
Right.
Google us. Kick and Make Up.
Googleable.
Googleable.
Man, that's nice, man. I like that. We're Googleable. That about does it. I'm the American Hybrid, Nick Cunningham. Jeremy J.D. Dorsey on my right. Remember, don't solve it in the streets. Take it to the cage and kick and make up.